Alicia Kozakiewicz disappeared from her home in Crafton Heights.
The abduction captured the nation's attention as few cases do.
She was abducted in an internet-related attack. What happened?
It's exactly every parent's nightmare.
What is the address of your emergency?
There was a caller on the line. He had seen video of a girl in a cage.
He saw her. He described her crying.
In this cage on the floor. It was like a dungeon.
He had an entire room that was devoted to the torture of others.
She had agreed to meet a friend she'd been chatting with online for 6 months.
The child predator luring a child. This child's in danger.
We should have known this.
Her parents were out of their minds with worry.
She's been out there long enough.
Typically in these cases, you don't often find these children alive.
I was viewing Alicia Kozakiewicz.
He live streamed this horrific treatment.
We've got something. We can do something with this.
Time was of the essence. No one had any idea that we were going to be able to find her in time.
They were calling me to say they had found my child, or is it to identify her body? It was just terrifying.
I can't believe this kind of stuff happens.
She believes it's a miracle she's even alive.
What happened?
Until now, she has never told the full story of what happened to her.
On New Year's Day 2002, 13-year-old Alicia stepped out of her parents' home and into a living nightmare. She had agreed to meet a friend she'd been chatting with online for 6 months.
I'm wearing the same clothes that I was abducted in.
I walked out my front door between dinner and dessert to meet this person, just to say hi, who I thought was my friend. I walked up the street just a little, and next thing I know, that little voice inside of me spoke up. Alicia, what are you doing? My intuition started screaming at me, Alicia, go home.
By that time, I heard my name being called. Next thing I knew, I was in the car, and he was squeezing my hand so tightly that I thought it was broken. And he was telling me warnings, the trunk's cleaned out for you. And he started to drive.
Having a family dinner, and between dinner and dessert, as I was clearing the table, Alicia went up to her room. And we called her down for dessert, and she was gone.
Of course she's up there. She's just in another room.
Together they search every corner, looking under beds, checking behind dressers, and even scanning the bathroom. But there's no trace of her.
She was just gone.
Her coat is still hanging on the hook, her boots are neatly placed by the door, and her purse is still on the desk. It's cold outside, and it seems unlikely she would go out without her coat or boots. But where could she be? This dramatic behavior is not something Alicia would do. She was usually always at home in her room, doing homework or playing on the computer. As panic rises, the family realizes the front door isn't completely shut.
We did notice that the front door wasn't shut completely. At that point, we began to become frightened.
One thing is for sure, she wouldn't be alone on the streets because she still has a fear of the dark. But what if something sinister happened? In a state of panic, Mary dials 911. Moments later, the police arrive at their doorstep. The first questions they ask are, "Did you guys fight? Anything gone wrong? Maybe she ran off?" And Mary firmly believes that she didn't just run off.
And they said, we didn't have a fight. She doesn't have anybody to run away with. So as a parent, you're thinking, absolutely not. No, she didn't run away.
Mary is gripped by fear and frustration. Suddenly, the police deliver the bad news. Local law enforcement must wait 24 hours before officially declaring Alicia missing. It's a standard procedure, and they can't do anything right now. The family is in complete disbelief. Alicia could be in grave danger at this very moment, fearing for her life and possibly living her last minutes, even seconds. Time's of the essence.
Law enforcement's estimation was that she was most likely out with some friends and that she'd be home shortly. And when she did show up, to give them a call and let them know.
Until then, they can only wait. But Mary knows this is not something Alicia would do.
We sat there in the house, listening to the clock tick away, seconds of that long, long night. It is the most helpless, terrifying, devastating, emotional feeling that you will ever have.
The lights are all on, the doors unlocked, and the curtains wide open. They're praying that their child sees this and finds her way back home. Knowing that Alicia is out there somewhere and without any idea what she's going through, they feel hopeless.
And he continued to drive and drive and drive, and eventually he hit a toll booth. And he threatened me, but he couldn't stop my tears. I had this
immense, great feeling of hope that he was going to get to this toll booth. The person inside would see me crying, they would be alerted, and it would all be over. The car pulled up to the toll booth, the money was exchanged, and the gate went up and he continued on, and I lost hope in that moment.
And at that point I realized, okay, well, you're much bigger than me and the time to fight and kick and scream is over. I need to do whatever I need to do to survive.
He took me down into the basement, down these winding, long stairs, and inside was what can best be described as a dungeon, a really terrifying place, and it looked like there were things all over the wall that were meant to cause pain. And he propped me up on a table and he told me that this is going to be hard for you, it's okay, cry. He held me captive by a chain to my neck and a locked collar. And I mean, let your worst nightmares come to your mind, and that's what happened. You know. Up until the 4th day, I had done whatever I had to do to survive. No matter how painful or humiliating or disgusting, I did it because I knew that my only chance of survival was to stay alive long enough for somebody to come find me.
I was so scared. I was so cold. It was like ice water was running in my veins.
It has now been 3 hours since Alicia Kozakiewicz disappeared. Investigators grow increasingly convinced that she's fallen victim to a crime. This presents 2 chilling possibilities. Either she's been kidnapped by a stranger while out that night, or she's been lured away by a predator. As time slips away, the chances of finding Alicia are getting thinner by seconds. In the FBI headquarters, technicians search Alicia's computer history. Alicia engaged in a lot of chatting, using various platforms like iMessaging, AOL messaging, and instant chat. The FBI team requests a printout of all her conversations. Most of the chats are typical of a 13-year-old girl, gossiping with her friends about boys and school, and nothing stands out as immediately suspicious.
In Kozakiewicz's home, Mary is frantically trying to stay occupied and offer assistance however she can.
When your child's missing, your mind's racing in a million different ways to all the horrible things that could happen, like every bad thing you've ever read or heard or every movie you've ever seen.
A friend of hers rushes over. She notices her stunned state and realizes she's not thinking clearly. She grabs the phone book and calls the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The woman from the center urges her to post the pictures around the area and online. This is the only thing she can do at the moment. Subsequently, the local media is doing everything they can to spread the word about Alicia. Alicia's parents are frantic with worry, desperate to ensure this story gets as far away as possible and that local reporters take it seriously.
This is a photo of 13-year-old Alicia Kozakiewicz. Her parents say she disappeared from their Crafton Heights home shortly after dinner on New Year's Day.
As Mary watches the news on TV, she starts praying that someone out there has noticed something. Someone willing to step up, make the call, anything. Alicia's story spreads across screens, but the silence is deafening. But then, Alicia's father, Charles, decides to dial 911 once more, this time emphasizing that his 13-year-old daughter has not run away. Finally, his persistence gives results. Pittsburgh police swiftly pass on the details to the Crimes Against Children Task Force. Immediately, they mobilize federal, local, and state law enforcement, including the FBI. With no waiting period, they launch investigations at the moment. As the FBI agents come to the Kozakiewicz home, they separate Mary and Charles and start interrogating them separately.
They separated my husband and I, and we were questioned separately, and they went through everything.
They are trying to find out what went down yesterday. The parents paint a picture of their daughter as a sweet but kinda reserved kid.
Alicia was usually the quiet one among her friends.
It doesn't seem like she planned to run away either, because she didn't take any cash or clothes.
39 intense hours, investigators hit a dead end. No closer to cracking the identity of their mystery man or locating Alicia. The mystery surrounding Alicia's whereabouts deepens by the minute.
Abductions are not frequent, but when they do happen, it usually has a terrible outcome, and reporters know that.
Then, a breakthrough. Agent Tom Carter's phone buzzes. As he is the acting supervisor of the Violent Crime Squad, he takes the call from the FBI switchboard operator. The caller from Florida claims to have vital information regarding a missing girl in Pittsburgh.
And what he told me was he had been talking to this individual online in a Yahoo chat room.
The caller is a member of a legal adult fantasy chat room, and he received a link to a private video from another participant in the chat.
He had seen a video being live streamed of a naked girl in a cage.
He describes her, she's crying, completely naked, and it's obvious she's been hurt. He's scared to do anything. He really doesn't want to get mixed up in it. As the man describes what he's seeing, Tom Carter is trying to gather as much information as he can. He's urging him to tell him who he is.
I was fearful that that guy would never call back.
But the man is done talking. He hangs up. If the girl in the video is indeed Alicia, it suggests she's currently facing a horrible situation. Investigators must swiftly trace the anonymous caller, but their efforts hit a roadblock when the call leads them to an empty payphone in Tampa, Florida. Alicia hasn't been seen for 2 days prior to that call. The fear factor just ramped up as they worry about the girl's safety. Knowing she's in the clutches of someone intent on causing harm is terrifying.
It was definitely a sense of dread to know that that child is in the hands of a perpetrator that wants to do evil things to her.
It's clear they're dealing with a seriously disturbed individual. Time is of the essence. Every passing moment is crucial. The entire team is committed to finding the perpetrator and rescuing Alicia. FBI agents tirelessly scour the internet, hoping to find the video of the girl they suspect to be Alicia. But so far, their efforts yield nothing but frustration. Meanwhile, in Florida, the anonymous caller remains in the dark. But then, all of a sudden, the phone rings again. It's the caller from Florida, calling back.
We were on the line for approximately 2 to 3 hours, me talking to him, trying to convince him that he needed to do the right thing and tell us what he knew.
The person on the line from Florida feels ashamed. He's been caught in a chat room he'd rather keep hidden. But when he realizes someone in the chat might be a threat to a young girl, he knows he can't stay silent. He's determined to assist the FBI in saving the girl he spotted trapped online.
It was definitely a sense of dread to know that that child is in the hands of a perpetrator that wants to do evil things to her. It was.
It's clear they're dealing with a seriously disturbed individual. Time is of the essence. Every passing moment is crucial. The entire team is committed to finding the perpetrator and rescuing Alicia. FBI agents tirelessly scour the internet, hoping to find the video of the girl they suspect to be Alicia. But so far, their efforts yield nothing but frustration. Meanwhile, in Florida, the anonymous caller remains in the dark. But then, all of a sudden, the phone rings again. It's the caller from Florida, calling back.
We were on the line for approximately 2 to 3 hours, me talking to him, trying to convince him that he needed to do the right thing and tell us what he knew.
The person on the line from Florida feels ashamed. He's been caught in a chat room he'd rather keep hidden. But when he realizes someone in the chat might be a threat to a young girl, he knows he can't stay silent. He's determined to assist the FBI in saving the girl he spotted trapped online.
I think he knew at that point that this was a very serious matter and that he was going to be providing a lot more information to law enforcement.
He informs the FBI about his numerous exchanges with the individual in an online chat room. Together, they talked about their fantasies and gained trust in each other. This guy told him numerous times how he wanted to kidnap a girl and use her as his slave. While the informant thought it was just a joke, this man was dead serious. Just last night, the same day Alicia was kidnapped, this guy started boasting about kidnapping a 13-year-old girl. He even put her on the camera, proudly declaring, "She's mine now." The informant started to feel uneasy, and as he checked the news, he realized the horror. The girl from the news looked exactly like the girl on the camera. This was the exact moment he decided to call the police.
We knew how much courage it probably took for him to do it.
But due to the anonymity of the room, he can give the police only limited information. He reveals that someone by the name of Scott goes by the handle Master14Slavegirls at yahoo.com. However, a screen name isn't a real name, and investigators are still in the process of uncovering the true identity of the man who has Alicia captive.
The screen name Master for Teen Slave Girls showed us a lot. We knew that the person that had Alicia was someone who wanted to have sex with this child.
As soon as they have the screen name from the caller, the agents jump into action to track down the IP address and subscriber details. This is now their only chance. However, tracking it becomes a real challenge because internet providers, such as Yahoo, are obligated by law to safeguard their subscribers' privacy and maintain the confidentiality of personal information. In the USA Patriot Act, there is a rule saying that if something urgent happens like this, internet companies can share details with the law enforcement. However, there's one problem. It's 5 a.m. in California where Yahoo's base sits, and the entire office isn't working right now. The call to the Sacramento FBI is made. They send an agent to Yahoo's president's house at 5 o'clock in the morning. The Yahoo president instructs an employee to go online and provide the details. Turns out the IP address is linked to Verizon. Immediately, another FBI agent calls Verizon, urgently explaining the situation.
We need the information from Yahoo right away.
We need the information ASAP, which they did provide.
Verizon swiftly responds and provides the necessary details. They give the IP address subscriber's identity as Scott Tyree from Herndon. With a name finally in their hands, investigators are one step closer, but the urgency remains. They still need to locate him. Immediately, another FBI agent calls Verizon, urgently explaining the situation.
We need the information from Yahoo right away.
We need the information ASAP, which they did provide.
Verizon swiftly responds and provides the necessary details. They give the IP address subscriber's identity as Scott Tyree from Herndon. With a name finally in their hands, investigators are one step closer, but the urgency remains. They still need to locate him, unsure if Alicia is safe or not. Agents immediately begin running a background check on Scott Tyree, discovering he's a computer analyst employed as a government contractor. He's clean, no criminal charges, nothing that screams bad guy. However, they have the IP address, and they have to follow the lead. Wasting no time, they use all the resources to secure the warrant.
On that morning, there was a lot of activity going on. We were putting the pieces together of the search warrant affidavit, and so that had to involve a lot of coordination.
With more than 2 days after Alicia Kozakiewicz disappeared, agents finally got the approval to search Tyree's house. The FBI swiftly dispatches one team to arrest him at his workplace and another to scour his house for Alicia.
And he said, "I'm beginning to like you too much. Tonight we're going to go for a ride." And I knew that that was when he was going to kill me.
I thought about my family. I knew that my parents were looking for me and that they loved me and that they would find me. But would they find me in time? When was the last time I told my mom, dad, or brother that I loved them? Did they know that I loved them? And I decided in that moment that I was going to do anything to get away, that I was going to risk my life. I heard the door fall in, and these people, it sounded like they were tearing apart this house. I thought they were coming to kill me. I thought that he'd sent people to kill me. I was terrified. I watched those boots, one set of them, walk from one side of the bed to the side that I was hiding under. And I remember crawling out from underneath this bed. I was going to fight him. Dragging that heavy chain behind me and staring into the barrel of a gun. And thinking that this is it. This is the moment I'm going to die. And then he turned around.
And then I saw the most beautiful letters in the alphabet. FBI, in bold yellow on the backs of their jackets. And I knew that I was safe. And I can remember my dad, he ran up and he gave me a hug.
Nothing could hurt me ever again because my dad wouldn't let anything hurt me again. And that was when the nightmare was over. Being in my family's arms.
An amazing moment for us to be reunited, something that is truly a miracle that we never thought would happen.
So what do you want to say to kids 13 years old right now?
It's so scary because they're making the same exact mistakes I did.
We teach our children to wear a seatbelt. We teach them to look both ways before they cross the street. And the reason we do that is because it's going to hurt them. It's not to terrify them and make them afraid of the world, it's to empower them.
You must talk to your children, and you have to let your child know that they can come to you with absolutely anything at all.
Yes, my story is horrendous. And people constantly say to me, oh, well, I went through something and it's not as bad as what you went through. And yes, it is. It's your experience. You can't put a value on trauma. It takes time, and it takes your time. It's okay for it to take time, for you to cry and scream and break down. It is difficult. There are ups and downs, but you can get through it.